Welcome to the Sterilization Station. This is that empowerment podcast for sterile processing, where the backbone of the hospital gets the spotlight. I'm your host, Bill Rochelle, and today we are digging into a problem that's affecting thousands of passionate, determined, and soon to be certified or almost certified students across the country. You've done the coursework, you've passed your exam, you passed your class, you're almost there, and now you're stuck in that externship waiting game. And if that's you, today's episode is custom tailored just for you, right? I really want to empower you. I want to motivate you. I want to encourage you today that there are ways you can work around that. It will take some work, but you know what? We are here to encourage you and empower you at the sterilization station. Now, I will share with you, maybe about a year ago, I've been in the industry for 20 years, been sterile processing managers, educators, preceptors. I've worked as a validations manager at a single-use sterilization plant. And one of the pet peeves I always have with these online programs, right? Now, stay with me because my pet peeve has changed. But in all honesty, I did not like online programs because the fact that they didn't have externship opportunities. But recently I had a friend of mine who reached out to me to help one of his workers at his job, and it really caused me to want to, basically I really wanted to help out my friend. And so I started to think about what could I do to change my perspective and, basically make a change even how I view it. And so I have changed my viewpoint, and I'm really thinking more about how can I help those who are stuck in, I don't have an externship waiting game. And so if that's you, this episode is for you today. An online sterile processing students are ready to show up, but sometimes the doors just aren't open. And so today I'm going to give you 25 real ways to increase your odds of landing an externship, along with some stories from the field that prove it's possible even when it's impossible. And so let's dive into these stories. These are not real people. I'm hiding the names of the real examples to keep it confidential, but I will want to share with you some stories that apply to how you can get the workaround and increase your possibility. Not saying that every one of these is going to work for you, but if you are that sterile processing student, I'm in 7 Facebook groups. I'm growing this podcast. I'm putting my episodes out there, and I'm meeting so many people. And I'm really from the heart, honestly, sincerely trying to make a difference. And so I hope this podcast will be educational. I hope this podcast will be encouraging to you. And this is me thinking outside the box to try to help you create the best opportunities. So maybe not all of them. Please stay to the end so you can hear all of these. This episode is for you. Facebook groups. I made this episode just for you today because my heart is heavy as I think about all of you who are stuck in the externship waiting game. And I want you to know, Bill Rochelle, Sterilization Station, he heard you, came up with this episode, and I hope that it inspires you and encourages you. So let's dive into it today. 25 ways to potentially secure an externship in sterile processing. I want to start out with section 1, which is going to be talking about networking, how important networking is. And I did a mini series on mentorship. It's in the Sterilization Station YouTube channel. You can find it under Sterilization Station or Bill Rochelle, as well as if you go to Apple and Spotify, Sterilization Station, you should be able to find me. I will be posting this episode directly into the Facebook groups. And once again, this is reminding you this is just for you. And so this first batch is all about relationships. Who you know, or more importantly, who knows you can really make all the difference. And so number 1 is it's important to get in contact with your local HSPA or CBSPD chapters. Every state should have a chapter in some way, shape, or form. Networking with those people is really key to how you can land a role as an externship. If you need help locating your local chapter, please reach out to me, sterilizationstation@outlook.com. I'm here to help you, or you can give me sterilization_station52 on Instagram or Bill Rochelle on LinkedIn. I'm here to help you or want to help you. Please give me that opportunity. And let's work together through these 24 things today. So attending your local chapters can really help you to meet someone in networking that might be able to secure an opportunity to get that externship. I'll give you an example of a young lady named from Colorado. Her name was Vanessa, and she went to one meeting. And when she went to this meeting, she was feeling nervous. She was trying to get outside her comfort zone, introducing herself to people, and she met a manager who didn't have an externship posted, but created one just for her because she showed that initiative. And Vanessa remembers feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks, and how she began to, basically this opportunity was created for her. And so it was through that networking. And I'm thinking about another person in New Jersey by the name of Devin, and how Devin, he began to ask his instructor, this is number two, his instructor for some of their alumni contacts. Now, Devin, he got ghosted by so many hospitals for months until he reached out to a former student who was alumni who did an externship locally and introduced him to her manager directly. And that door opened the next day, changing Devon's outlook from frustrated to excited. And so this was the number two way that you could begin to secure an externship, is potentially through reaching out to your school, connecting with some alumni. Number three way that you can network in sterile processing to help you in gaining an externship is through SPD leaders on LinkedIn. When you create a LinkedIn profile page, how it will facilitate a good opportunity for you. You go into the networking tab, type in sterile processing managers, start to connect with them. Once they connect with you, send them a message in LinkedIn stating that you are a new student, share with them your story, and you never know what might happen. This reminds me of Maria, who is from Texas. She sent respectful messages to 5 department leads, and only one responded. But that one offered to review her resume and ultimately gave her a referral. Yes, gave her a referral. It was that one yes is all it takes. And Maria says that encouragement that she had, that encouraged her and fueled her persistence. Number four way to secure an externship potentially is to offer to shadow before asking for an internship. A lot of hospitals, they might require you to, provide some of your immunization records, but you can call and ask to shadow a day in sterile processing. During this time, you can share your story, bring your resume. You never know what might happen. Reminds me of a good friend named Jay, based out of Ohio. Couldn't get anyone to commit to an externship, right? How many of us have experienced that, right? But after shadowing one weekend shift, he built trust and ended up training with them 2 weeks later. And he recalls how that first shadow day transformed his nervousness into confidence. And so these are some ways that can empower you and encourage you. These are ways, if you begin to try them, you never know what might happen. Faith without works is dead. Give God a little something to work with, or whatever you believe in. Give him something to work with by trying to step outside of the box. Think outside of the normal routine. You never know what might happen. Networking, number 5, networking with surgical techs, nurses, and even transporters. Reminds me of a nurse in Florida overheard a student talk about needing an externship. That nurse emailed the SPD manager herself, who called the student that same week. So don't underestimate connections outside your field. That student says it felt like they received a lifeline. So you never know when these opportunities can present themselves. So let's recap on this section right here. Let's think about going to those local meetings, those local chapters, touching base with those sterile processing chapters, asking your instructor for alumni contacts, right? Connecting with people on LinkedIn, leaders, offering to shadow before an externship, calling the hospital operator, tell them that you want to volunteer, finding out how you can volunteer, telling them that you want to volunteer in sterile processing, and networking with those surgical techs, those nurses, and those transporters. These are 5 ways that networking can help you as you're trying to secure your externship opportunity. This next group is for the go-getters, because this process will test your consistency. If you are a go-getter out there, I want you to like this post, comment, as we go into 5 ways that persistency can help you to gain an externship when you're in an online program. Number 1, follow up every 7 to 10 days. Thinking about Darius, right? Sent one polite email to a hospital in Atlanta, no responses. He followed up twice, still nothing. On the 3rd follow-up, they called and said, Darius, thank you for being persistent. Let's get you in. And he went from feeling ignored to finally seen. This is very important, being persistent. Keep a tracker. Number 7, keep a tracker. Thinking about Erica, she used Google Sheets to log 22 facilities she applied to across her state. She color coded based on their response statuses. Maybe green for their callback, yellow they left a message, red no one answered, and she was able to follow up efficiently and professionally. She stayed hungry. She endured. She was persistent. She landed 2 offers, and the organization gave her a shout out for her organizational skills. Moving on to the next one. Ask if hospitals are partnered with specific programs. Thinking about Paige in Oregon, she discovered that her local hospital only accepted externs from online schools. She re-enrolled in that school's module, and suddenly she was eligible. What was once a closed door became wide open. This is what Paige did. She asked if hospitals were partnering with specific programs. Thinking about how also you got these smaller surgery centers, right? These ambulatory surgery centers, ASCs, and these outpatient clinics, dental offices, eye places. Thinking about Marcus, who tried every major hospital in Southern California with no luck. Swing and a miss. 3 strikes, you're out, right? Then he applied to a plastic surgery clinic. They were thrilled to have him come in and help and taught him one-on-one. His feeling of rejection turned into gratitude and thankfulness. His feeling of rejection, did you hear that? Turned into gratitude. Like the caterpillar in the cocoon, it turned into gratitude and thankfulness. Why? Because he applied himself. He knew that smaller surgery settings might be the way to go. I work at an ambulatory surgery center to a degree. We're a hospital, but we are more open like an ambulatory surgery center. We extern students. I precept students year round. I love precepting students. That's why I love this podcast, because it gives me an opportunity to share and to give back. Call SPD directly, not just HR. I know a lot of us are doing this, but keep doing it. I'll share a story with you. This is my personal story. I was working at a hospital, and I wanted to be in another hospital. And I knew that to get in this hospital, I was going to need to think outside the box. I called that hospital every month, asking the manager. Called in, I speak to the manager, got the manager's number, called them every month, asked them if they had an opportunity. Do you have an on-call? Do you have an on-call? Share your story. Share the how you felt at that moment. At that moment, I was really down. I wanted to be closer to home. And then that, the the mid, the post, and share those emotions. Tell your personal story. I got clean and sober over 20 years ago. Thank God I haven't turned around since then. Thank the Lord. But you know what? That I called and shared my story. I changed my life. I made a big change. This is more than just a job. This is a change in my life. Please let me show you that I will be there and I'll be a great asset. Share your story. A lot of times you can hit them where it counts. Hit those managers in their heart. Sharing your personal story gets them to personally buy into wanting to be a part of your journey. So this is really great. Made me think about this manager in Chicago told the student, if you had waited for HR, you'd still be waiting, right? I'm glad you called me directly because we needed help. And that call transformed the student's sense of helplessness into empowerment. Your story can empower others. And if you're listening to this podcast and you have a externship story, please share it. Encourage those in this community. These listeners need to hear your story. Your story is powerful. Whether it's his story or her story, it needs to be told. Your story can encourage those coming behind. Now I want to transition over into the ways that visibility can empower you to land that externship opportunity. I sure hope this episode is helping you. I hope it's giving you some ideas to think outside of the box. You might be doing all the right things, right? But nobody sees you. It doesn't matter. Let's make you impossible to ignore. Create a professional LinkedIn profile, right? I told you about how changing your profile from sterile processing student seeking externship and started posting weekly about her journey. A recruiter messaged her after 2 weeks, and Amber recalls feeling validated and encouraged. Asked for a recommendation letter. This is really good. Posting videos on Instagram. Sharing your story out there. You don't know who could be listening. Maybe do a 30-day video log of a student seeking externship. Never know what might happen. Ask for a recommendation letter from your school. Like Layla, right, submitted a letter from her program director with her application. The hospital said it was a deciding factor. They rarely saw students with formal endorsements. For Leela, it was a boost to her confidence and credibility. Even another one is building a one-page resume just for externship use. Make a resume like David that simplified his resume to show SPD coursework, skills learned, and soft skills. Managers always love how clear it is and compare these to long-form resumes. Clear resume helped him reduce his anxiety about competing. Another thing you can do is volunteer in the hospital somewhere else. You can volunteer in transport, volunteer as an X-ray, volunteer in the anywhere in the hospital. Is a great way for you to get inside, network, and go by SPD, talk to the manager, tell them you want to set up an appointment, and share with them that you went through a program, you're volunteering in the hospital, but you really would love an opportunity to job shadow, volunteer, and hopefully even do an externship in sterile processing. So volunteering somewhere else in the hospital is another way that you can do the workaround to potentially get you in front for the opportunity for you to plant that seed. And then you're also engaging with SPD communities online. This is another good one. Makes me think about a good friend Tony, who posted in a Facebook group with his location, his availability, and goals. And a former tech from his city tagged a hiring lead, and that comment turned into a career. And this story shows the power of virtual community. So be vulnerable, be willing to put yourself out there. Whether it's creating a professional LinkedIn profile, asking for a recommendation letter, building a one-page resume just for externship use, or volunteering somewhere in the hospital, and then as well engaging with those SPD communities online. These things are so important and can really help to create the opportunity for you to land your externship. I want to move on to another area that can really help you, and that is in the realm of the word creativity. Now let's talk creative strategy. This isn't about being flashy. It's about being resourceful, thoughtful, and unforgettable. I'm going to say that one more time. Resourceful, thoughtful, unforgettable. Think through the ears of someone who's in the hospital. What would they want to hear from an externship potential student? Think about how would you be able to get into the doors. Offer flexible hours. This is very creative. Think about Melanie, who told a facility she was open to overnight shifts, right? The shift that no one wants to work. The night lead called her 2 weeks later. They'd been short-staffed for months. Melanie went from feeling invincible to feeling invaluable overnight. She thought outside the box. Willing to work weekends, willing to be flexible, willing to work those shifts. I'm willing to do what no one else will do. There's a way for you to get your foot in the door. Write a personalized email about your passion. Think about George, who shared his story of watching his grandmother recover from surgery and how it inspired him to want to be a part of surgery, and how he heard about sterile processing. And his email made a manager cry, and they offered him a spot that same week. And George's vulnerability opened a door, because he was thinking outside of the box and he was willing to share his story. Dropping off your resume in person, if the policy allows, is another great opportunity. You can call the hospital, you can share it with them. You never know when this is going to work. It's like Samantha, who dressed professionally and dropped off a packet at 3 facilities, and one manager later told her, "We don't usually accept externs, but you made a great impression." And Sam went from nervous to hopeful in 10 minutes. It reminds me when I was seeking an externship, how I printed out a list of all the hospitals in my area that were for about 50-mile radius. And I got a highlighter, and on my lunch break as a bill collector, I would call hospitals and I would share my story. And one lady wrote my name down on a sticky note. And when they called me in for that externship, when the school contacted me, told me, "Are you ready to get to work?" When I got in there, that sticky note was sitting on her desk. And she said, "You know what, Bill, look it." And I wasn't the highest grade in the class, but I was passionate and I had the right energy and really wanted to get in. And I was willing to share my story. Your story is power, and it's not over yet. Your story is in writing. Keep writing your story. This chapter might be challenging, but just remember, it's not over till it's over. Keep trying, and Sterilization Station is here to help you in this quest. Reach out. I'm willing to help you in whatever I can do. Create an externship pitch packet. Create an externship pitch packet. An example was like Nina, who included her resume, her program transcript, a letter of recommendation, proof of her vaccines and CPR card, and her organization gave her a fast-track approval. Nina's preparedness turned heads. People said, "We have never seen someone like this." Create an externship pitch packet. Be ready to hand this out for those hospitals that are willing to let you come in. You can also ask if smaller or other hospitals can make a one-time exception. Thinking about that student who emailed a 35-bed rural hospital in Kansas. They never had an externship program before, but she was respected, and they agreed to train her informally. The student's persistence led to a pioneering opportunity. As we transition on into this last segment, I hope that you're being encouraged. I hope I'm giving you some ideas to think outside the box, to help you in things that you can do. Take a little bit of work, but never know what can happen. Like I said, faith without works is dead. Finally, the last section is on mindset and strategy. Finally, your mindset matters more than you think. These last five are full of faith, grit, and being unshakably prepared. Apply everywhere. Number 21, apply everywhere. Not 5 places, try 25 places. Be like Alexis, who treated her externship search like a job. If you don't have a job in sterile processing, your job is to get a job in sterile processing. She applied to 31 locations in less than 3 weeks. And it was number 29 that said yes. Alexis's story is a testament to never giving up. Number 22, don't assume silence means rejection. Remember, following up on a hospital that you applied to 2 months ago. Their email said, "Sorry for the delay. Thanks for your patience. We're ready to move forward." This is going to take you from doubt to relief. So never assume silence means rejection. Sometimes your opportunity is being prepared. So make sure you have patience. Be willing to travel. Reminds me of Kira, who drove 90 miles each way for her externship. It was tough, but it led to a full-time job after graduation. Her sacrifice paid off big. Be ready to explain what makes you valuable. Be ready to explain what makes you valuable. Deshaun practiced a 1-minute pitch. I'm reliable, detail-oriented, and hungry to learn. Reliable, detail-oriented, and hungry to learn. I'll show up early and stay late. A manager appreciated the honesty and hired him on the spot. Deshaun's preparation made the difference. Remember, be ready. Create your one-liner. I'm reliable, detail-oriented, and hungry. I'll show up on time with a positive attitude, and I believe in unity and working as a team. Create your pitch. So when you have that opportunity, you could be a volunteer. You could be shadowing. Make sure your pitch is ready. Keep believing your effort will matter. Keep believing your effort will matter. You have to keep trying. Do not give up. Remember Tiana, she sent 15 applications, got 12 rejections and 2 replies. And finally, on her 16th attempt, she landed her externship. Now she mentors others. Her story is proof that persistence pays. I guess I went through all the 25, but I'm really glad. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope these have helped you, encouraged you, inspired you. Maybe they're not going to hand it to you and it's going to take some work, but these are 25 proven ways to fight through the externship drought and claim your space in this field. I know this process is frustrating. I know it can be discouraging, but remember, no one can take away the work you've already done. You put in the time, you studied, you went over the flashcards, you studied the materials, you went over the chapters on decontamination, on assembly, on prep and packaging, on sterilization, decontamination, on safety, on quality, on microbiology, on anatomy. But remember, no one can take away the work you've already done. The externship is just the next step, and you've already proven you have what it takes. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. You have what it takes. Now here's what I want you to do. This is from Bill Rochelle. Share this episode with a classmate, a friend, or a coworker who's in the same boat. Let's support each other. Post your story online and tag us. If you're on Instagram, sterilization_station52. If you're on LinkedIn, @sterilization station or @Bill Rochelle. You're on Facebook, @sterilization station, @Bill Rochelle. Where are you applying? In this post, post your story. Where are you applying? What's worked for you? What hasn't? And if you're out there and you've landed your externship, please help someone else. Name drop that clinic. Open a door. Pay it forward. This is Sterilization Station, an empowerment podcast for the people behind the clean and behind the scenes. And until next time, keep knocking, keep showing up, and don't you dare give up. Don't you dare give up. Stay encouraged. Good things come to those that wait. Keep trying. Have faith. Pray. Faith without works is dead. Keep doing what you know to do. And I'm really glad that you tuned in today, and I hope that this episode today inspired you and encouraged you as we discuss externship or bust. 25 ways to land that critical hands-on experience. Please stay tuned. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the Sterilization Station. Have a wonderful day.